Okay, look, that's not a ridiculous thing to say.
What I'm saying right here is the facts. I am presenting to you the facts of the matter.
Oh, this is going to be fun. It is Thursday, November 7th, 2024, and in a week that has felt like a year, it is finally time to talk about sports. Welcome into Eric on the Call on WPCZ LP FM at the top of the hour. Eric Edmondson, your host, here with you, and I am so glad to be talking about sports with you once again because this is my happy place. This is my zen, and of course that zen being yelling and complaining about sports teams in different states that somehow, some way have a drastic effect on my own mental health. As I said, it has been a long week, but I think we can all still agree that the Dallas Cowboys are so bad. They are so bad. Dak is out for a good bit, 4 weeks at least, as he gets IR'd, and Jerry Jones decides to trade him by at the deadline. Now, granted, that trade is Jonathan Mingo? Really? Jonathan Mingo? You know, the guy who was supposed to have a breakout year with the really bad Carolina Panthers. He hasn't done anything. You know what, Jerry? I'll let you have that one. I'll let you have that. You know, you go get Jonathan Mingo. That's some reinforcements in the wide receiving core. Maybe he breaks out with a more talented roster in Dallas. So what'd you give him? You know, bag of chips? Something inconsequential. Fourth round, Jerry? That's what you gave him? Okay. Thanks, bud. All right. We'll talk about the Dallas Cowboys a lot later on, but there were some other teams and fan bases who were looking at their GMs asking for some help, saying, please get us some help. And some GMs went out and did that. They got much needed help. Commanders, and some did not receive any help. Falcons. But there are teams who have become cadavers, for other teams to feast upon, such as the Browns, the Titans, and the Panthers. Why did Tennessee give KC D-Hop? Why did they do that? Kansas City did not need that. I don't care if they're down every single wide receiver. They don't need that. They have enough devil magic to carry them to a 3-peat, and you gave them DeAndre Hopkins for nothing? Oh, why did you do that, Tennessee? Speaking of D-Hop, he was key in a Monday night game that saw the Chiefs move to 8-0 against the Bucs. The much-maligned KC squad has been the worst undefeated team that we've seen in a while, with Mahomes actually having a bad season by his own standards. You know, Mahomes has not been himself and somehow, some way escaped a ACL tear scare on Monday. Anyone who saw that play thought it was over. With what we've seen for non-contact injuries, especially in the sports in general, in NFL, in sports in general, we've seen it happen, and it's just tweaks and the slightest things can really do that. Mahomes escapes, thankfully, for his own health. Of course, we don't want to root for injury here. But again, Mahomes and his KC Chiefs are 8-0 somehow, some way. We're going to talk about them a little bit later on. The NBA is in a couple weeks of its lifespan, and man, the Bucks and the Nuggets are maybe in some trouble, right? The two have not been able to really answer the bell since the start of the young season, and now I expected this a little bit out of Milwaukee because I don't understand Doc Rivers still being a part of the squad. I don't know why he's there. But, I mean, look, Denver looked unstoppable last year, and it looked like they were going to get revenge this year after an upset in the playoffs. Jokic can only do so much for that squad. I mean, he's still averaging 30 points a game, which is very scary, and I think he dropped 40 in back-to-back games a couple days ago. But will this core for Denver keep on chugging, or is the front office floating the idea of breaking it up? That is something we will talk about later on in the show. Donovan Mitchell and his Cavs are off to a fantastic start of the year, sitting above the powerhouse and well-shooting Celtics in the East. They are 9-0 overall. This is a very dangerous Cavs squad. I said that there was going to be some competition with Boston, and the Cavs are certainly up there, but I did not expect it fully to be Cleveland. I really didn't. Especially this early on, they have gotten off to a fantastic start. And we finally got some news that we've been desperately waiting on Tuesday. That news being the committee's first rankings of the college football playoff. no real surprises in the rankings aspect of everything, but some shakeups with the new 12-team playoff format. Lots of teams that are going to earn a playoff berth in a sport that has needed this for many a year. We knew that there were going to be tons of different teams that were going to be earning a spot, a home playoff game, anything of that sort. I think it's great for the game. We needed more of that, and we will be talking all about that next up. But first, I'd like to introduce you, Eric on the Call listeners, to the Z-Becks. I've played them before on this station, but now, for the first time on this show, I have not played them before. The Z-Becks are a rising indie rock band out of Glasgow, Scotland, and give me really such a refreshing sound. Not even most indie rock bands give me, so I'm really excited to show them to them. Get ready to break through with the Z-Becks on 98.7 Roar Radio, the student voice of Piedmont University. Welcome back into Eric on the Call on 98.7 Roar Radio. Eric Evanson here with you, your host for this afternoon sports talk. So I mentioned before we went to the break, we're going to be talking about college football because the first power rankings, the first playoff seeding for the committee has come in. And go ahead and read you off the top 12, which would be the projected season playoffs. This is in no particular order. Or order of power rankings, not an order of seed placement, I should clarify. So this is power rankings for the committee, but not seed placement. Oregon, Ohio State, UGA, Miami, Texas, Penn State, Tennessee, Indiana, BYU, Notre Dame, Alabama, and Boise State. Again, that is the power rankings of these teams by the committee, not the seeding at which they would be placed in the playoffs. There's some funniness going on. It would be very confusing for me to relay that over the air. So please go check that out for yourself of who would be the presumed seeds. I can go ahead and tell you, number 1 seed is the undefeated Oregon Ducks. They're 9-0. Boise State is here. Ashton Genty is really the only reason why. I mean, the guy is exciting to watch. Dude is paving his way for a Heisman, man. A lot of people might say, oh, he doesn't deserve it. No, he doesn't. Now watch him run. Shut up and watch him run, right? He is a very exciting player, and he's very crucial to this Boise State squad. And I'm honest, without them, they're not in this 12-team ranking, this top 12 ranking. They're just simply not. This is just a personal vendetta for me. I have to mention it. LSU is not projected to get in the playoffs because Brian Kelly sucks. I want LSU to fire Brian Kelly. He has not done anything for them in his tenure as coach, and I really thought this year that he would be able to get them to the playoffs, but as of right now, they're not projected by the committee. Ohio State at 2 above UGA. I don't agree with that one. I really don't. And a lot of it comes down. A lot of it comes down to the coaching. I don't believe in Ryan Day. I didn't look as closely into him at the beginning of the year as maybe I should have because I was just overwhelmed with the amount of talent that Ohio State has. But the thing is, Ryan Day has not done a lot. He really has not. He won against Penn State most recently, but he has never delivered that big game, and never delivered a big game against Georgia. Remember, they lost to them. They lost to them in New Year's at the stroke of midnight. One of the most picturesque college football playoff moments we'll ever see in our lifetime in our lives. But again, Ohio State above UGA. Are we sure about that? Now, I will concede, this is a very weak UGA team that we are accustomed to seeing. Look, Carson Beck has completely unraveled. He came into the year looking like he was going to be a high draft pick, and now I don't know where he's going to wind up. I don't know if he's going to wind up in the first round even. He might even fall to the third or the fourth. He has really fallen, really unraveled very fast. He does not look comfortable anytime he gets flushed out of the pocket, and it has led to him averaging like 2 interceptions a game. He looked terrible versus Florida, which is very, very scary. He looked passable versus Texas, but I would assume that's because his O-line geared up to play. His O-line had some extra juice in him, had some extra Kirby Smart wisdom in him. That's exactly what I believe happened with UGA, but I'm not a big believer in Carson Beck, which is why I can maybe see Ohio State above UGA, but again, I don't. If it comes down to the team, I'm taking UGA over Ohio State any day of the week, because the team includes the head coach, and I trust Kirby Smart a lot more than I trust Ryan Day. Miami placed above Texas is very interesting. Look, Miami is undefeated as well, and I've said multiple times this year on the show, that they're being carried along with really friendship and vibes. I don't see anything particularly scary about this Miami team. They've played Florida, Florida A&M, Ball State, South Florida, and FSU. The closest win they had against a team, like the 1 point differential, was against Cal. Cal's not even ranked here, but they did beat Louisville, who is at 25. Really? But I just don't trust and I don't respect this Miami team enough. They have earned that record. You can only play who's on your schedule. I understand that. But to rank them above Texas, who has really done a showcase this year of showing what a powerhouse looks like. They looked like a big powerhouse in the SEC before Georgia knocked them down a peg, and now the SEC is a very level playing field. Miami is most likely, they have a very good opportunity along with Oregon to finish undefeated. Both of those teams have a very similar schedule, both of cakewalk schedules to the end of the year. I expected both Tennessee and Penn State to be up here, even if they've had some rough patches. But Tennessee's win over Bama here looms very, very large. It was at Tennessee. They took the post down. It was a big win, and I think that's why it looms so large here because, again, Tennessee had not played anybody, and I said multiple times that was going to be a big test for them, even if Alabama is struggling with identity problems right now. Indiana has been sneaky all year long. They're just here. They're happy to be here. Proud of Indiana. The Hoosiers finally have a good football team, so they're sneaking through. Alabama being this low is not in the slightest shocking to me. I said that this was going to be a team that looked like they were going to stumble into the playoffs, just somehow, some way they're going to get in, and I don't even know if they're going to be able to make any noise. Even before the 2 losses to the Tennessee teams, I thought this. I don't believe in this Alabama squad, and I don't think it's completely their fault. Look, this is the first year under Kellen DeBoer. This is the first year under a new coaching staff after a Saban. I don't even want to call it an era. It's like a dynasty. What's longer than an era, man? It's age. The Saban age, right? So taking over and filling those footsteps and those shoes is a huge task for any coach to do, any coach in history to do, because Saban's the GOAT, right? So I'm not mad at Alabama for doing this, but I am mad that the talent is not performing to the level that it should be. Alabama is still a very talented roster, and at the end of the day, the coach is not playing. The coach is not on the field. The talent has to come through. It cannot be Williams and Milroe doing everything here. I have been very critical about their defense in the past. Their defense almost blew them a game to Georgia at home that they escaped with by the skin of their teeth. Their defense bends, not breaks. This is a defense that lost to Vandy. This is a defense that lost to Tennessee. Tennessee that lost their QB for a moment in the not opening moments, but the first part of that game. This is it's not a bad Bama squad, but again, it's a Bama squad that does not have a lot of answers to burning questions that they have. This field is not great. It's not flashy, and I would even venture to say it's not good. It's not the best college football product that we've seen in a while. I was watching games a few weeks ago for the slate, and I was just like, man, this isn't fun. There's a couple of fun teams out there, but a lot of it is sloppy play, especially from your powerhouse. You want your powerhouse conferences to be very big, and even the undefeated squads right now, you have a bone to pick with them because they haven't played anybody. There's a disparity of competition. There's a disparity of strength throughout this college football playoff, and I think a lot of these records come playoff time that's going to make them look bad. It's going to make them look really bad. There have been upsets aplenty, but it isn't those teams upsetting aren't supposed to do that. That's why it's called an upset, right? I understand that. But these teams should not be losing the games the way they are. They're losing the fundamentals. They're just absolutely getting torched on the fundamental aspect of football. They're not getting beat by a Linsanity game, a random good game. They're failing at the very aspects that builds football. 2 of the biggest games this year have been UGA versus Bama and UGA versus Texas. One of them was a blowout, and the other was a cascade of poor play on both sides, like I just said. Listen, you may cheer for the fall of the SEC, but without the top dog, without someone pointing the way, the field is lost. Texas may be that top dog, but they haven't earned that. By record and by talent, they may be that top dog, but they haven't earned it. They lost to Georgia. They lost to Georgia in an embarrassing fashion. Head coach Sarkisian just kept on swapping out QBs. You can't do that. You got to put trust in some guy. You got to put faith in some guy. UGA is not at full strength, as I outlined. Not a fan of Carson Beck. Bama has no identity. Tennessee is scrappy, but when have we said recently that Tennessee has a threat to win a national championship, really? When have we actually said that? Outside the SEC, the Big Ten is kind of also in a costume. They're kind of hiding. The biggest team in the country and in the conference is Oregon, and they will more than likely win the Big Ten championship, but they have not played anyone outside of Ohio State who, again, has a bad coach. They have all the talent in the world, but Ryan Day has never been able to bring a big game to that school, except for the win against Penn State last week. That's when you can hang hat on because Penn State is in the playoff. They are highly ranked. They're having a good season. But Ryan Day has consistently let down this school, let down this program. And they had an opportunity to beat Oregon. Maybe they should have beat them. Maybe they slipped a couple times because I do think they have the talent advantage over Oregon. I've talked about how talented I think this Ohio State team is. Ryan Day gets you into the playoffs and then goes away. He just disappears. Ohio State's going to continue to get all the coverage in the world because they are as big, but they have to win that big game. They cannot keep parading around that they are the class of their own conference when they're getting beat in such hilarious fashions as they are, or they're getting outpaced in such hilarious fashions that they are. They should have beaten Oregon. They really should have. That narrative would have been quelled for Ryan Day had they beaten Oregon when they needed to. Penn State is here. I'm not expecting big things out of Penn State, but I'm not upset with them being here. They've earned being here. The competition surrounding them in the conference is not strong. Same thing with Indiana. There have been no powerhouses. I think I've outlined that pretty well. It's been a wild year for the sport that, for a sport that more than often has a world beater in its ranks somewhere. This gives opportunity. Let's give you the bright side here. I gave you a little bit of dark clouds and showers, thunderstorms. Let's give you a bright side here. I said at the beginning of the season that the 12-team playoff offers a uniqueness, bringing playoff football to different areas of the country, more eyes, more dollars, more excitement. We have some big games coming up this weekend for you to watch to them. All these bring these eyes, these possible fringe playoff teams, right? You need to take a look at them because that's the only way this sport continues to grow is that we continue to putting a lot of people into these areas, a lot of eyes into these areas that college football hasn't necessarily touched. And College Game Day, as much as I dislike it, has done a good job of being in those areas this year. So games to watch this weekend, Georgia at Ole Miss. It's in Oxford. It's a great city, great college town. So watch out for that one. I've been looking forward to this one because I wanted to see how Jackson Dart was going to perform. And now we get to watch a Jackson Dart and Carson Beck mid-off. This just might be a shootout, man. Both of them are going to be pretty rough around the edges, I would suspect. Clemson will be at Virginia Tech. Army will be at North Texas. Army still undefeated. Michigan will be at Indiana. Again, that's the shell of Michigan's former self. South Carolina will be at Vanderbilt. The powerhouse Vandy. They're going bowling, baby. Good news for Vanderbilt. Washington will be at Penn State. That's in prime time, baby, for Penn State. Love to see that. And then the game of the week, Alabama at LSU in the real Death Valley. That's in prime time. That's going to be a must-watch. I'm excited for that one. I said multiple times I'm an LSU enjoyer, so it's always good to see if you can beat Bama, especially at home. It's going to be a great game. Both of these teams, again, they're not world beaters. They don't dominate in any aspect of the game necessarily. I think they even out. We're going to see maybe some sloppy football, but some entertaining football. I'll put it like that. Again, good football as we steamroll ahead towards December. While college football is nearing playoff season, the same can be said for the NFL. We just went through in what is my opinion, one of the more quiet deadlines that we'll see. Some contenders got pieces and some others sat still. All the while, Jerry Jones still thinks his team is a contender. Sorry, Jerry, it's not. Stay tuned because we're breaking down the NFL trade deadline next up, what all went down last week, and when we come back from the break. An artist that I always circle back to on this show, especially in my time on the station in general, is Joy Lattimore. The daughter of two Nigerian immigrants, the Arizona native is textbook folk and Americana for the modern day. This song comes off of her new album, Observations from a Crowded Room, which just came out last month, features some of her best lyric work to date, in my opinion, along with some of the better sound mixing that she has brought to the table. So for our next break, here is Joy Lattimore with Flowers on 98.7 Roar Radio, the student voice of Piedmont University. Welcome back into Eric on the Call on 98.7 Roar Radio. Eric Evanson here with you. Welcome you back in. The trade deadline for the NFL has come, and then it is gone. Some teams got better, some teams got worse, and some regrettably stayed the same. It was a great move. Let's go ahead and kick it off. Great move by the Commanders getting Marshawn Lattimore. Love that for them. This is going to be a quick breakdown. We'll move into a couple other teams here in a minute, but just some of the big hits from the trade deadline. So again, Marshawn Lattimore, the Commanders, love that for them. They've got good control of him. They did have to give up a little bit of a haul, though, but for a Saints team, it's also a win for them as well. The Bengals get Khalil Herbert. It's not the biggest need for them, but you know what? Takes some stress off of them. Cam Robinson goes to the Vikings. That should help out the O-line. I do need to see a good game out of the defense for Minnesota, though, for me to start believing them again. I do need to see the defense have a good bounce-back game. Chiefs got better because teams just, felt like making the undefeated team better. Joshua Uche and DeAndre Hopkins to Kansas City. The Cowboys got Jonathan Mingo, as I said. What are they thinking there? That doesn't make much sense, especially for a fourth-round pick. Sure thing. Go ahead with it. That trade made after Dak got hurt, and I get going all in, Jerry, or not going all in on this one. And Mingo isn't, he's not terrible. He obviously has some talent to him. But, to say that we're trying, we're not trying, is this really what you do for a fourth rounder? Let's forget the Trey Lance trade. That was for a fourth rounder as well. Both of these players are not difference makers for a Dallas team that more than likely is going to just suck this year again. So, very unfortunate for the Dallas Cowboys to trade for that, especially giving up that in return. The Falcons have been very exciting this year, but they needed help. They were originally in talks with the Giants' Azeez Ojulari. That fell through. Didn't mention the Bills, but folks should be scared of what they have right now. They are big contenders, the contenders at the moment at the halfway point in the season. Bills are more than likely winning the AFC East. You never want to put anything to bed quickly, but come on, they're up there, right? They do have a little bit of a tough schedule ahead, depending on how these teams play them. The Colts. I'm not high on the Colts for certain, but I mean Joe Flacco's there, and Joe Flacco is much more efficient than AR. KC is undefeated. If I'm looking at that for the Bills' perspective, that's a must win for me. Then you have the 49ers, the Rams, who can be a little bit spooky sometimes. And then you got Detroit down the stretch. Again, these are several weeks ahead, but that's what they're going to be looking at. So the Bills do have a little bit of a tougher schedule, but I wouldn't be too worried about them. They have the talent to do it, and they should have the talent to contend for a Super Bowl, and I really do think they do. The additions they made, they're a great boost, especially with the season that Josh Allen is having. And again, not to look too far ahead, but next week you got the Chiefs. I feel like you got to beat them. They're your boogeyman. It's going to be in Buffalo. You got to slay the beast, slay the dragon, man. Go for it. And especially with KC playing Denver this week, I really don't think that they're going to go into that one 8-1, right? Now, I said we're going to talk about the contenders, but let's talk about the Bears, okay? The Bears might be sneaky here. Lest we forget, they played some decent football earlier in the year before this little slide as of late. I like where they are right now. I really do. They've beaten the snot out of bad teams like you're supposed to do, and they've contended with the good ones. That's the spot the Bears are at right now, is you have to show me something. You have to show me some flash. I like their defense. I like Caleb Williams after he settled in. A couple bad games for him is not going to sway me because we saw at the beginning of the season. Does that mean he might be an inconsistent quarterback? I don't know. We'll see. But, the main thing is that they have a coaching problem. Eberflus is not the answer. And I just don't really understand how he's still in control of this team, especially when you bring in Caleb Williams, bring in this new age, you're trying to promote this new wave of Chicago Bears football, and you keep the same coach around. That's the status quo. And I don't like the possibility of getting rid of Eberflus this early into Williams' career. He's a rookie. That's a lot of disruption for his young career. Now, albeit Williams a little bit one of the older QBs coming out of college, but still, he's a rookie nonetheless. And getting rid of Eberflus, the coach that quote-unquote drafted him, it's going to be a little bit turbulent. So I don't like Eberflus, but the Bears have put themselves in a very complicated situation. And I think getting rid of Herbert's going to hurt. This team already depends on Williams so much that getting rid of one of those options is going to put more pressure on Williams. Baltimore got some wideout help with Deontay Johnson. The offense has been fantastic for Baltimore. You got Derrick Henry, you got Lamar Jackson. They're both MVP contenders, man. It's very rare you can have two players of that offensive potential both contending for an MVP. However, the defense is not Super Bowl caliber. They are allowing 24 points per game. They need to clean that up. Now, can they shoot out their opponent every time they play them? Maybe in the playoffs, yeah. But you want that fallback good defense, and that's not what Baltimore has at the moment. Do they have the potential to be good? I think so. But you got to tighten the hatches. You got to turn the screws a little bit more to make sure that the wheels aren't going to fall off of this thing, like they have every playoff season at this point. Baltimore has what it takes, but again, you have to get over KC. You have to get over them, right? And KC, we all know, becomes a different animal once they get into the playoffs. Washington, they need to let that ride. I like the addition of Lattimore. It's a huge pickup for them. They have him through 2026. They gave up a lot of capital to get him. However, they beat the Chiefs out to do it. The Chiefs wanted Lattimore. You know what? I respect that. Washington, thank you for getting him before Kansas City did. I really appreciate that. I respect the push to go in here this early into Jaden Daniels' career, this early into the Daniels era. He's the best performing of the rookie quarterback class to this point. He deserves a chance to lead his team to the playoffs, and they really do look like they're going to be able to do it. This is a move that not only helps you out this year, it's going to help out your core. It's going to continue helping you, and that's why I appreciated them not going all in this year on perhaps just Jaden Daniels' overperformance, but they're going in with some hesitancy. They know that Jaden Daniels needs some time, but they're still giving him pieces to work with. Obviously, Lattimore not directly something that Daniels will work with, but it's part of Daniels' team, it's part of his defense, right? And that's certainly going to help out. The Falcons are a big contender. I would say that they're a big contender. However, they didn't get any help. Their defense has been a little rough. If they actually got some defensive help, I would say they're a little bit dangerous. Not just because they're coming out of, not just division winners of NFC South because it's bad, but because, they actually earned it, right? But here's why I think that they're a little dangerous, right? They're a little bit more dangerous than you would think. This team is cocky. This team, they think they're the best team in the NFC. They haven't been shut down otherwise, right? They beat the Eagles at home. They're carrying that with them. Really, the only, really upsetting loss is the one to Pittsburgh where you just couldn't score any touchdowns. I guess you can say Seattle was an upsetting loss, but I wouldn't be as upset about that one. Bad games happen. Stinkers happen. It is what it is. But again, the defense needed help. They did well against Dallas last week, which Dallas coming into this year was seen as a contender, but they have had terrible play calling with Mike McCarthy back there, so I'm not going to credit the Falcons defense entirely for shutting down Dallas. Dallas almost came back. Granted, it wasn't garbage time with Cooper Rush behind center, but still, the defense on paper looks good, and maybe they can be good, but time after time after time this season, the offense has had to prop up the defense. How many times have we seen Matthew Judon get close to the QB and not been able to do anything with it? How many times have we really seen that? Will this team make a run this year? I don't know, but they're on their way to a 3 seed. If you win against the bruised and beaten down Saints this weekend, then you can really look and see an NFC South title win for them. The Falcons are on the precipice of a playoff berth for the first time in a while. It's exciting times in Atlanta. Philadelphia, despite starting off the year a little rough and Nick Sirianni being bad at his job, they are back to business. They've rattled off 4 straight wins, and if not for Atlanta, they'd be 7-1. If not for the Saquon Barkley drop, they'd be 7-1. They're getting back to winning, and they still don't look at full strength. I think this is talent and player-led. This isn't coaching-led. This is the talent on that roster saying, hey, man, we're better than this. Let's keep scoring. Let's keep running. Let's not even look at full strength yet. That's scary. That's a scary thing. The Saquon Barkley deal continues to just make New York look stupid as Saquon is doing fantastic things, like jumping over people completely backwards. I think if I tried to do that, I wouldn't tear a muscle or anything. I'd be snapped out of existence for even trying that. They'd be like, nope, can't do that. You're gone. Out of here. Let's move to the Bengals. I'm not a believer in them. They have no defense. I said last week, despite Burrow's best efforts, that there is no defense. Trading for a running back was not the answer here. Again, I like the offense. I think it's good. It's just not enough to go back to the Super Bowl, especially with a defense that has the same consistency as wet paper. They're getting ran through, and there was no help on the horizon. They got Khalil Herbert. What? Cincinnati will show off that offense tonight against another team that doesn't have a defense, but is marginally better in almost everywhere here. Of course, that is the Baltimore Ravens on Thursday Night Football. So again, that game will be in Baltimore, the Bengals versus the Ravens. Give you some other games to watch. Denver will be at Kansas City. That'll be interesting because Denver's defense was absolutely exposed last time. So if you want to see the Broncos come back down to earth in a flaming ball of fire, then you're in luck because KC's here. But what if Denver beats KC? Oh, that's an Arrowhead. It's not happening. Sorry to get your hopes up. Atlanta will be in New Orleans. As I said, the Falcons can really start to strut to an NFC South title win with a chance here versus New Orleans in New Orleans against a battered and bruised team. Pittsburgh will be at Washington. I fully expect Commanders to take care of business versus a looking fraudulent Pittsburgh Steelers squad. And Detroit will be at Houston as Houston tries to figure some things out. They've been a little interesting as C.J. Stroud goes through a little bit of a sophomore slump. Detroit continues to roll. Next up, we're only a few weeks into the season in the NBA, but already some telling things said about some top contenders. The Nuggets look in trouble, so will the front office break up that core? Same thing with Milwaukee, who's in a bit of danger with Giannis's contract and some money. The Cavs are now 9-0, and the Knicks are looking dangerous, except for when they play against Zachariah Rashashir. Stay here with us because we have hoops coming up. But first, we take another music break with one of my personal favorites. And although I'm not really a fan of what they've released recently, their earlier work is still very, very good. Cavetown is an artist out of Cambridge and has been in the indie scene for a good long while, being a strong voice for various social issues. They have been making music since they were 14, and Cavetown has not had just one single viral hit. It hasn't had a song pop up on TikTok and just blow up, right? It's been a steady growth and for them throughout the years, and you'd be a fool not to go check them out. Here is Cavetown with Fool on 98.7 Roar Radio, the student voice of Piedmont University. Welcome back into Eric on the Call on 98.7 Roar Radio. Eric Evanson here with you, joining you for our final segment, our third segment, which is the NBA, So, I mentioned before the break that the Nuggets were floating the idea of potentially breaking up that core, that Murray-Jokic core. Well, will they actually break it up? No. Murray and Jokic are enough to build around a title team, so maybe if they move around some stuff, maybe if you want to consider that a breakup, which I do not. But look, keeping Murray and Jokic are very crucial for that team. Jokic is only in year 5 of maybe like a 10-year prime. I think he's still got a good few long years left in him. And again, now will next year be a remeasuring year? Maybe. It might be. You never know. Especially, if they don't perform well in the playoffs this year. They started out slow this year, but I think they're going to be fine. I'm not worried about the Nuggets. Jokic keeps on chugging. He's still averaging 30, dropped 40 twice in a row a couple days ago. I'm not worried about the Denver Nuggets, all right? That was mostly just a snapshot first reaction by a lot of individuals, but as I said on last week's show, the Nuggets are going to be okay. They're going to be fine. They have a good core with them, but if they lose, let's throw a hypothetical here. If they lose in this year's playoff, will that change things? It might. It very well might. So I don't think they're gonna get rid of Jokic. They're not gonna get rid of Murray, especially since Jokic likes playing in Denver. I don't think you're just gonna be able to hoist him off somewhere, right? The Bucks, however, are in a very tricky situation. The future is not bright. They swung a lot of trades to get Lillard and Holiday a couple seasons ago. They've lost several draft picks along the way. Their 2025, 27, and 29 first-round picks are gone. Just gone, right? Because they made all these trades, and there's a lot of money being taken up on the books with Lillard, with Giannis. how are you going to pay for new star or new role players? How are you going to do that? Especially if you want to compete with the Celtics, which you've made, since you want to compete with the Celtics, or the Celtics want to compete with you, which you have mostly done the past couple of years. They've kind of been in a relationship, right? They've been trading for this guy to beat this guy, or to trade for this guy to beat that guy. That's kind of been the symbiotic relationship. Now, the Celtics are just in every way better right now, but the Bucks, I think, are still in a championship window. However, you cannot have two players taking up $100 million of your $154 million budget, your payroll. You can't. You just can't do it. What are you going to pay? What are you going to realistically pay some other guys to come in and get it done? Because as of right now, even though Middleton's injured for Milwaukee, Damian Lillard and Giannis Antetokounmpo are taking up a lot of the points. They are doing all the production. No one else is able to help them. So you need to go get someone else. You need to get a third. You need to get another solid guy to help this duo, because they're not winning games just with Giannis and just with Lillard doing things. So you have to change some things up. Again, it's just those two. They haven't been able to draft well either, because they've been performing at the level they are. They've been at the bottom level of the draft board, so they haven't been getting new rising stars. It's not as simple as, we'll just get rid of Middleton and we'll get rid of Lillard and we'll make Giannis our aircraft carrier, right, to put all the pieces on. It's not that simple, because you don't have a rising star coming up to be a complement to Giannis, because you haven't been able to draft well, because you got rid of all your draft picks to swing trades, and because you have been performing well. You're at the bottom of the draft board. You cannot just ship somebody off and magically think everything's going to be better. You just can't do that, right? And speaking of the team that they've been competing against in trade-wise, or at least roster matchup-wise, the Celtics have been on a heater, man. An all-world heater for Boston. The reigning champs are off to a great start this season. They continue to shoot out the competition with their super team. It looks like there's no room for stomping right now. Porzingis isn't even with the team right now. He's down. And they're still finding guys to fill in. Namias Quetta dropped 38. That guy's crazy. And he is just a role player. I don't even think he's contending for any sort of fifth man or sixth man up there. It has been a really good, solid squad for the Celtics right now, but they did run into a buzzsaw with the Warriors. They're back to business. Steph Curry is still crazy. He's carrying over that hangover from the Olympics. The league's in danger if he keeps on doing what he's doing, man. Steph Curry is a man on a mission, and we've seen it. He can single-handedly carry a team through a season into a very dangerous playoff spot. He certainly could do it. The Knicks are also what you thought they would be. Now, when it happened, the Cat trade was very strange. Albeit the Cat trade was very, very strange. I didn't understand it. I didn't know where they were coming from, because Julius Randle was maybe a little bit better, but from what I understand, it's been doing great. Cat has been wonderfully solid and a great compliment to Jalen Brunson, right? And with the Wolves are struggling, with Edwards struggling, it looks like that the Knicks are going to come out on top of this trade. Obviously, very early to call, very early to talk about a winner and a loser of a trade. But Karl Anthony Towns has been fantastic for New York. He's been a great compliment to Brunson. And the Knicks in totality are a team to watch. I don't think they're going to come and grab the Cavs or compete with the Celtics, but I think they're a dangerous team to watch, as they showed us in the playoffs last year. Except for when they play a inconsistent, no defense, pain in the neck Atlanta Hawks team. What happened there, New York? I need the Hawks to lose to fit my narrative. I don't like the Hawks. They get on my nerves. But randomly, ZR decides to have his best game since being drafted after looking like a little bit of a bust. I mean, this draft class was not anything special, but I mean, he wasn't anything special in his opening first few games, but he absolutely tortured the Knicks last night. So good on the Hawks, good on ZR, as they took home that victory. But the Knicks overall, I still think, are a very big threat. I'm very excited to watch Brunson continue this season. We'll see if he can sneak into some MVP votes. I'm not sure if I subscribe to it. I think he led the team down the stretch. I think he caught fire. It's all about consistency. That's what the MVP race is about. It's about consistency. Can Jalen Brunson continue to be consistent at an MVP caliber level? Maybe not. Maybe he's not there yet. But with Cat, it's a big help for him. Talking about the Cleveland Cavaliers, they remain undefeated, and they're on for a team scoring pace record. That's right. They have been rolling. They are good to go. I like the Cavs this season. I knew Donovan Mitchell was going to go up for another great one. Kenny Atkinson also has done a fantastic job of coaching that squad to this point. I believe 9-0 is the best start in franchise history for them. I could be mistaken, but I do believe that is the best start in franchise history. Remember, this is a franchise that had LeBron James on it, and they're also on the way to a scoring record. So again, they had prime LeBron, but with these players, with this roster, they're breaking records in their franchise history. 10 players for them are averaging 5 in 15 minutes, 5 points for 15 minutes, 10 of them on a whole rotation. That's crazy. They're averaging that. It's a very strong bench and a very strong roster overall, and that's exactly what you like to see out of one of the top teams. They're top of the conference, top of the NBA right now, 9-0. They play GSW next. That'll be very, very interesting. We're getting ready to close it out here in the studio. We're going to send you to one last music break with a Filipino group, Toy, an indie funk group with heavy blues and folk inspiration as well. The group has been as indie as it gets, with no record deal in sight, as they like to do things on their own. So, here is Get Up by Toy on 98.7 Roar Radio, the student voice of Piedmont University. Welcome back into Eric on the Call. Getting ready to send you out of here for the weekend, and I'm going to take it out with some news and notes and some games to watch. Starting off, the Saints fired Dennis Allen. Darren Rizzi will be the interim coach for the New Orleans Saints. Of course, Dennis Allen started off the year 2-0 in really earth-breaking fashion. I mean, the Saints looked dangerous. And then they went 0-7, much to the delight of myself and all the Derek Carr haters out there. Because everyone thought, like, oh my gosh, Derek Carr is going to pop off here. Derek Carr's 2-0. He looks great. He's MVP candidate? Nope. No. Derek Carr does enough to justify his contract and then just goes to bed for the rest of the year. It's exactly what he does. The NHL is looking to get ahead of things early, discussing a CBA before this next one expires and causes a possible lockout. It's a great move by the NHL and the NHLPA to try to get this done right now while the season's starting. So, at season's end, we're not going to see anything come to a stop, because we do not need a lockout. We don't want a lockout. We hate lockouts in sports. It hurts the teams. It hurts the fans. We do not want to see that. MLB free agency has begun. Speaking of recent lockouts and terribly ran sports leagues, again, MLB free agency has begun. The qualifying offer deadline was Monday at 5 p.m., meaning there are a lot of free agents to sign now. Of course, the marquee free agents being Corbin Burns, Juan Soto, Max Fried, for a few of them. To do locally, hit a local bit of news with the Braves. The Braves picked up Marcell Ozuna's team offer, extended the qualifying offer to Max Fried, and they declined the club option for longtime catcher Travis d'Arnaud, making him a free agent, rearranging some deck chairs and moving around some money for a possible another addition, which, if I'm a Braves fan, I would be looking at that saying, hey, what's going on? If we're declining $8 million for one of our more beloved players, then Juan Soto better be starting in the outfield for me next year. That's what I'm thinking. Give you some games to watch before we get out of here. Again, UGA will be at Ole Miss. Bama will be at LSU in Death Valley. Thursday Night Football tonight is Cincinnati versus Baltimore. They'll be at Baltimore. Atlanta will be at New Orleans. Pittsburgh will be at Washington. Detroit will be at Houston. And in the NBA, GSW will be at Cleveland on Friday, and Dallas will be at Denver on Sunday. And the MLS playoffs continue tomorrow as well as Saturday. Well, guys, I think it's getting about that time. It's getting about that time for me to find my way out of this booth. Thanks for tuning in to Eric on the Call. If you want to keep up with myself, I suggest TikTok and Twitter/X. You can find me by just looking up my name, Eric Edmondson. You can also find all episodes of Eric on the Call on YouTube. Just look up my name again with Eric on the Call. It'll take you right to it. Make sure you stay tuned on 98.7 Roar Radio, as we have a full slate of shows starting at you tomorrow, bright and early with She Means Business. Then my man Jay Ray takes you back in the day with his show. Once again, everyone, thank you for tuning in into this week's show. We'll be back out again next week, same time, same place. So make sure you tell a friend, tell a family member, tell a frenemy that Eric's on the call. Stay safe, everybody. Have a great weekend. Make good decisions. Watch sports. And as always, have a good one.